Hi guys, my name is Mohammad. Javid. Performance is my passion, and today I'm reviewing the 2012 Ferrari 458 Spider. And for the day I have the keys, and I will show you around all the cool features, some of the cool specs, and that's pretty much it for this video. Let's check out the front styling of it first. I mean, it's a really beautiful looking car from the front. It's designed by Pininfarina, and that's basically an in-house design company for Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, and things like that. If you look up here, you do get these two little front spoilers, and these are designed to generate downforce about 200 pounds on the front of the car at about 120 miles an hour. They do help the front of the car stick very well, and they do actually work. And if you see, they suck in so much air from here that you actually get some leaves back here as well, which is, I mean, it's interesting how much air this thing pulls in. So really cool. If you look at the headlights, you do have a big halogen here and tiny LEDs, so it looks really good. These are the turn signals, and the design of it kind of reminds me of an F12 and a Ferrari Enzo. So those cars both looked good, and this one's no exception either. If you look here as well, you have another air intake. So once the air goes from here into here and here, it has to exit the body somehow. So how does it do that? It comes out from this channel, and this actually channels it to the mirrors. The mirrors channel it towards this rear air intake, which is really interesting. They even use the door handle actually for their advantage to channel some extra air into the engine. That's really cool. Looking at the side profile of the vehicle, I told you this is the Spider. So it has a roof mechanism, something like 55 pounds lighter than the F430's roof mechanism, the predecessor to this car. And this is a hard top aluminum vehicle instead of a soft top, so it quiets down the ride quite a bit, which is interesting. And I mean, with the roof up, it looks good, but man, with the roof down, it looks even better. Taking a look at the wheels and brakes, these are carbon ceramics. They're the best in the business. They have a system so that basically when you lift off the throttle in sport mode, the brake pads go right up to the calipers. That is so that it shortens the time from you pressing the pedal and these pads touching the caliper as well. So that's really interesting design coming from Ferrari. You have 295 Pirellis on this vehicle, and they're really sticky. Pirelli's one of the best in the business. They only lose to Michelin in terms of grip, but P0s are probably some of the best tires around on cars nowadays. But the wheels are also actually designed to channel air away from the body, you know. Okay, they're designed to channel air into the brakes from the front, right? So you cool down your brakes on a hot day. These are carbon ceramics, and they really need to be cooled when they're used hard. And then they also, you know, channel the air back out. They're designed in a specific way. They look really good. Taking a look at the back, it looks really beautiful from this angle. I mean, you have a carbon fiber package, so you get, this is finished in raw carbon fiber. There's no paint covering it up. It just has some preservative on the top so that you don't scratch it as easily. If you look down here at the exhaust, you know, many people ask the owner, why is there 3 and not 4 like the predecessor, the F40? Well, this, first of all, I mean, design-wise, it looks really good, and it does hark back to the F40 Ferrari, and some people say that is the best car in the world in terms of fun. But, you know, that also had 3 exhaust pipes, and if you could see, the center one is a little bit smaller than the 2 side ones, and that is because below 3,000 RPMs, the engine is sort of in a quiet mode, and it uses this pipe most of all. And since the engine goes all the way to 9,000 RPM, one of the highest revving V8 engines in the world in production, it has to go through these 2 pipes to reduce back pressure at high speeds, which is interesting. You get a nice diffuser back here, and I believe this is some sort of composite, maybe carbon fiber, I don't know, but there's a lot of carbon used in this vehicle, but they're pretty stiff, and they do channel air out. You get some more air ducts and vents here as well. But generally, it looks beautiful from here. Let's take a look at the engine as well. So once you pull out your Ferrari key and open the doors, which look really good from this angle, to open the hood, you just pull a tiny latch here, and that's a very interesting place to put the latch. It's very visible. You're always going to see it. You're never going to lose it. So if you are in a cars and coffee meet, and you want to show off the engine to a bunch of enthusiasts, immature teens like me, you just pull the latch and you get out and you show off your engine. So the door. Coming back here, since this is the Spider, you get a slightly smaller hood and you get your big roof mechanism here, but you pull it up and it's really light. It's aluminum and the rest of the bodywork is carbon fiber. So hey, that's really light, 3,400 pounds on the Spider. Taking a look back here, this is Ferrari's 4.5 liter flat plane crank V8. Yes, flat plane crank. What is that? Well, don't get caught up in the word flat plane. It's just the look of the camshaft, the crankshaft. But it does mean that the engine can rev quite a lot more, and it could breathe a lot easier too at high revs. So speaking of revs, 9,000 RPM. That is the highest revving naturally aspirated V8 in the world in production, and that's impressive. Numbers: horsepower is 562, and compared to competing cars like the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG, no slouch, but that has 563 horsepower, one more. That means that if this car had 2 more horsepower, 564 instead of 562, it would have been the world's most powerful naturally aspirated V8. Yeah, that's impressive, but they did achieve that record with the Speciale, which had 600 horsepower. Impressive engine. As you can see, it's red here. Those are your intakes. You have some more intakes here. I mean, those are, you get fuel pumps and things, accessories like that. And I mean, from this angle, it looks beautiful. In the coupe, you see more of the engine, but here, the roof mechanism does kind of get in your way. It's fine. This is where you put your Ferrari specified oil. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure most people won't do their own oil change on this vehicle, but if you do, that's interesting that they put it that easily at reach. If you pay really a close attention to the engine, it is actually really compact. For a 4.5 liter V8, it's small, and actually the bulk of the engine is not here, but it's actually over there. It's kind of out of sight right now since this is the Spider and your roof is in the way, but I can tell you they put in a lot of effort to put it in between the two wheels. That makes it, that lowers the center of gravity. They could bring the engine a little bit lower, lower the center of gravity, and it doesn't intrude with the aerodynamics of the car. It also gives you a chance to put in these air channels here, and quite a bit more channels underneath it as well, so you get better cooling. That's interesting. I mean, but something else that's interesting is that if you take a look, all these pieces inside here, they're mostly aluminum or some sort of synthetic. I mean, yeah, so this is some sort of plastic, right? And if you look here, these are aluminum, so that really lightens the vehicle down. They have a special cutout in this one for your oil and things like that. It's really interesting down here. I love the design of it. I mean, it looks really nice with the hood up. Just wish you could see more of the engine, really. Some more cool design underneath the hood. So you get this little heat deflector, and that is also aluminum. It deflects it deflects hot air from the hood, and that protects it from burning. Actually, the 458 did have a fire issue. So looking under here, you do actually see the wheel wells, and they are held in with bolts now. They used to be held in place by really a special kind of glue. So on a really hot day when the engine was going really fast on a racetrack, perhaps, the glue would get really hot and it would catch fire, and that was a big issue with the vehicle. So they had a recall on it, and they hold them in with bolts now instead of glue. It looks good from here, but let's also take a look inside the interior. Before we take a look inside the interior of it, you do have these leather-wrapped plastic pieces here, and that is to preserve the beautiful lines of the vehicle when the roof is down, but when it goes up, they get out of the way, and your roof goes right up on top of it. To open the door, however, all you have to do is unlock the door with your Ferrari key, fair enough, You pull the door open with the button, and you sort of get in. You do have these big sills, and many people ask, why do supercars have big sills? That is because when cars are made out of carbon fiber and they don't really have much crash safety structure within the roof, they have to sort of transfer that other places, and Ferrari decided to transfer a lot of the force in the sills, and that's why you get really big ones. It also writes Ferrari here, which is kind of cool. So this is an F1 inspired steering wheel. So Ferrari, if you didn't know, takes a lot of time and effort, puts a lot of time and effort into F1 racing, and therefore you get an F1 inspired racing steering wheel. So what do you get on your steering wheel? Well, you get really nice leather inserts all over it. You get beautiful red stitching. They put in a lot of time on the steering wheel, and you get carbon fiber pieces all over it, which, I mean, it looks nice, it feels really premium. Your horn, well, if you see, you're not honking anything. How does that work? You have two tiny buttons, one here and one here, and if you press either one, you honk the horn. It's pretty loud. If you press these buttons, you turn on your turning signals. Really cool design. I mean, you know, it's designed to keep the steering wheel in place, and it just looks really cool. You get your high beam, so if you want to flash at someone, you just flash it with that. This is your bumpy road mode. Yes, that is what they call it, bumpy road mode. From factory, Ferrari calls this the bumpy road mode. So when you press this, it softens the suspension up on a hardcore road, and you just press it to turn that setting off. There's your engine start button. What a great place to put it. I mean, it just looks really nice. You get your traction control button, so you turn it off like that, and it's also a mode selector. So race mode, sport mode, wet, and sport traction control off, ESC off. Those are really, this is just really cool design. This is how you use your wipers. The vehicle's not on right now, so they're not going to go up and down, but it's just a cool place to put these. Looking behind the steering wheel, you get these paddle shifters. So this is not a manual shift car. It has a double clutch automatic gearbox. It's shared with the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. Yes, the competitor to this vehicle uses the same Getrag transmission, and it's one of the fastest shifting transmission on sale. It's really good. There is one issue with it, however. So at slow speeds, double clutches just work that way. They're kind of jittery and a little bit slow at slow speeds, but at high speeds, you just pull this thing and there's no shock to the car, there's no weight transfer. It just shifts without any fuss really quickly. I'm impressed with that. If you take a look at some buttons here, so you have a pit speed. So, I mean, it's kind of a gimmick. It's not really something most people will use, but let's say you're in a racetrack and you want to go into a pit stop without going over the pit speed limit. You just use the button and you set the speed that you want to go. So if it's like 12 miles an hour, you just set it to 12 and it maintains that speed until you get out of the pit. Really interesting. Looking down here, you get your launch control buttons here and a race mode, your hazards, and it flashes too, which is cool. You get your window switches here, and this is for a tiny little visor here. So this is a wind deflector, and once you're moving in the Spider, it basically goes up and down, or you could control it, and it controls wind noise and things like that. It makes it quieter and nicer to drive on the inside. And this is also your roof button. It takes 14 seconds to go up and down, except compared to competing vehicles like the Audi R8 Spider or the McLaren MP4 12C Spider. Those cars, you could be moving the Audi at 31 miles an hour, McLaren at 17 miles an hour, and your roof mechanism still works. This one you have to be fully stopped, but 14 seconds, you could bring it up and down really quickly. Very nice. You get your visors here, and actually they have a nice Alcantara or suede material on front of them. You don't get any mirrors though this time, and as you know, as an Italian car, that's a little bit weird because Italians kind of like to look at themselves. No, just kidding. But you don't really get a mirror, and that's because they had to shorten it for the Spiders so it wouldn't get in the way of the roof mechanism. Cool. You get a relatively quite a bunch of buttons up here. So your dome lights, more dome lights, and you could turn your parking sensor with this on or off. You also have your passenger airbag light. So I mean, most cars, they have to have this. By US law, you have to have that. But basically, they sort of didn't bother with it. They just put it up top where it's not really visible. Kind of cool. You also get a few more buttons, so this locks the doors and unlocks them. Weird place to put your door locks, but hey, it works. And you still get some climate controls, some creature comforts. It's pretty nice to use. It's pretty premium to the touch. Nothing ever breaks. They feel really well damped. I'm impressed with it. If you take a look here, I mean, okay, this is leather, right? It's nice, and it has red stitching. What you don't have on top of the dash is a big ugly screen. So here's your instrument cluster. It looks really cool. You have your shift lights on top of here. The quicker you go, the more revs you have, the more lights turn on, and it tells you to shift so you don't hit red line like an idiot. You have a huge tachometer. It's the biggest thing in the instrument cluster. Looks really nice. Goes all the way to 10,000 RPM. Technically it only stops at 9,000, but hey, it's not that unrealistic. So taking another look in here, you do get all your settings down here. That's your speedometer, and it's also your GPS if you know how to work with the buttons. You get this screen as well, which tells you a bunch of information like how much gas is in the car, how many volts your battery is at, how much engine PSI there is, and to go through the menus of that, you just use this button, and it takes you to engine temperature, oil temperature. Pretty cool. You could dim the whole instrument cluster with that button, so that's pretty nice as well. Turn it back up, and that's pretty much all there is for this section. It's really cool on the interior, actually, how everything faces the driver. It's very driver oriented. It's not really about the passenger on this car. It looks nice, and it feels like the cockpit of a fighter jet. It feels really nice. Including the fact that, you get all these screens in front of you telling you all sorts of vital information when you pull the paddles and you're suddenly moving around, darting around. It's just a really nice place to spend some time. And for me to open the doors, all I have to do is turn the key off, take it out, and if you look here, here's the door latch. It's a really weird operation. You just pull it up though, and bam, it unclicks, and you get out of your Ferrari 458 Spider. Really nice car. Let's listen to the engine as well while we're at it. If I want to open the front boot, or the trunk as Americans would call it, you take these two buttons, go to the front one, push it, it's kind of heavy, and it's open. And all you have to do is pull the red latch, and your aluminum hood goes up. Taking a look underneath here, I mean, it's sort of like the back in the way that you don't get access to a lot of things. I mean, the wheels do take up quite a lot of space here, and they've sort of covered it up so you can't mess around with it and void your warranty. You get your windshield washer fluid here, so you just pull the cap and you fill the whole thing so you could wash your windshield. And, I mean, taking a look inside here, it's kind of a deep trunk, but not a very big one. Mohammad will not fit in there this week, I can promise you that. But you have enough room for your Ferrari battery charger. I mean, Ferrari knows their market, right? They know their audience. Most of the times, when you buy a supercar like this, and you don't drive it for long periods of the time, like when it's snowy, right? You just park it in a beautiful garage like this one, and you let it sit for a while. What happens when you do that? Your battery can go dead. Ferrari gave us this charger to charge your battery so it never goes flat, and you can drive it whenever you want to. And it fits in this nice little Ferrari branded bag. I bet you this whole thing would cost you more than 200 bucks on eBay if you lose or break your own. Taking a look here, you'd get these tiny duffel bags. I mean, you could fit items into it that comes with the car, and it looks really cool. You get a big light, and it sort of intrudes into the cabin area. Not that big of a deal. Now, I already said that Mohammad will not fit in the trunk, and I promise you that. I'm too big for this one, alright? That's just the fact. And even if I did fit, it's not my car. I can't really do that with this one this week. But even if you do manage to fit someone in on the inside, I mean, you would have to, like a 3-year-old probably, you would just pull this latch and get out. They did actually have an issue with this when they wanted to bring it and sell it to the US. European spec ones didn't really have that, right? But the US mandates that every single car has to have that release, just in case someone gets stuck in there. I don't know how, but if you do, you pull the latch, and I mean, at first they were a little bit faulty, and they didn't really work, so they had another recall for that one as well, but I can promise you this one works. We're not going to test that out, however. Since this is a special vehicle, or as Italians would say, it's speciale, that was the performance version of this vehicle, we're going to give it a special scoring system today. So, since we're going to be testing it on performance, value, equipment, and also comfort. So, let's start off with performance. I mean, 10 out of 10. How could you argue with 3 seconds from 0 to 60, 199 miles per hour top speed, 462 horsepower? There's nothing really left on the table for this car to achieve, except, I mean, if it's not enough for you, get the Speciale, alright? It gives you 600 horsepower, quite a bit more speed, and way better sound. So, 10 out of 10 for that category. Comfort. It is mildly comfortable. I mean, it's not a luxury car, it's a supercar. If you put bumpy road mode on, you could, I suppose, achieve a 5 with it. So, 5 out of 10 for that category. Equipment. It does have quite a lot of technology on the interior, as I showed you. Very interesting stuff in there. I'll just give it 9 out of 10 since it's not easy to use. Comfort, value. We're at value now. So value, I mean, sitting here, it's above 200 grand, right? I'm not going to go more in depth than that, but it's expensive, but it does verify itself. I mean, it does help itself out with all the cool stuff that it has. I mean, sure, it's expensive for a car, but as a toy for making you feel special, there's really nothing that could compete with it. And, I mean, that's probably the highest praise I could give to a car. So value, I'll give it 10 out of 10 for that category. 10 plus 10 is 20 plus 14, since 9 plus 5. So 20 plus 14, 34 out of 40. Very good score. There's nothing really to compare it to this week, but I think we'll find a few more cars to compare it to. If you're looking for a very great performance car, check this vehicle out. 2012 Ferrari 458 Spider. I would like to thank the owner of this vehicle and a few more cars. I mean, Mr. Alizadeh, thank you for letting me test the vehicles. That was quite a lot. I would like you guys to like, share, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the channel while you're at it as well. There's a lot more cool cars like this one coming to the channel. As always, my name is Mohammad Javid. Performance is my passion, and I'll see you next time on The Young Driver.